Okay, so one of the philosophers that has influenced my unit plan or my way of teaching is John Franklin Bobbitt. And the reason for that is because he was a strong advocate for identification of objectives. So I think that is essential when planning a lesson. You need to know exactly what you're going to teach, how you're going to teach it, and what you want your students to, what you want the result to be at the end. So it is important for students to know what it is that they're learning. And this is always like every single day. What are we going to do today? So by stating the objectives, you are letting them know this is what we're doing and this is what you are expected to do. And of course, another thing about him was how he wanted to prepare students for their adult life. So a lot of his theory, his activities are in preparing students to be adults, to be prepared for the real world, to be ready for their careers. So I like to implement a lot of skills that they will need to use or they will need to know how to do for the rest of their life. Another philosopher that has influenced me is John Dewey. So John Dewey was big on learner-centered classrooms, and I do like to implement a lot of group activities, one of which is the group investigation model. So with this model, students learn how to interact with one another. So one of the things also now is how students are very intimidated to talk to one another, especially since now a lot of them don't have those social skills. The technology has hindered these social skills that used to be more or seen more before. So working with others is extremely important for, again, for adulthood, for preparing them to be vital citizens in our society. So using this model, students learn how to interact with one another. And that's another thing also. They also learn how they don't always have to see eye to eye. It's okay to disagree, but how are we going to voice our disagreements? They have to learn how to interact in ways that are acceptable to society. They're going to have situations, perhaps with friends, with other coworkers, where they don't see, again, eye to eye. So how are they going to work through these problems? And I think the group investigation model or democracy in the classroom helps with that. Another model of teaching that I like to use also is partners in learning. So one of the ways that I have implemented it is the jigsaw method, where, and again, partners in learning can be 2 students, 3 or 4 in a group. And so with Jigsaw, each student, say it's 4, each student has their own assignment. They know what they're going to do. And this helps, I suppose, at the beginning of group activity so that they know what their role is to the group, what they know what they're going to do. And it also helps to keep them accountable, because there are times where students just try to get away without doing anything. They're in a group, they think someone else is going to do the work. So Jigsaw really helps to keep all the students in the group accountable. Another way that I like using partners in learning is classes discussion. So during lectures, there are times where I have asked questions and nobody wants to answer. So if I have them discuss with a partner, they're more likely to talk with a partner as opposed to in front of the whole class. So this is also something that I do with throughout my lessons, throughout my lecture. And then also I like to use explicit instruction. So with social studies or with a history class, there's a lot of primary and secondary sources that are used. And of course, there's times where the kids don't understand what it is that they're reading. So I do like to model a lot of these strategies to them. So I'll start with an excerpt and I'll read it and I'll stop every once in a while to explain a certain word, to do a think aloud so that they see how it is that I am processing this information, right? I'll say, okay, so who is the author? Who is the audience? What are they trying to see? And so they'll know that these are the types of things that they have to think about when they're reading an excerpt. And so we do this quite a bit at the beginning. I'll model quite a bit so that they can see the process. And then throughout the semester, I'll just do it every once in a while because the point is for them to learn how to do this on their own. Now, these are just the philosophies and models of teaching that are what I believe most compatible to my subject. There's others that I utilize, but these are the ones that I use the most.